I want to explain the kind of spiritual perspective of why things are so crazy right now. Have you just looked around recently and just thought, what is going on? Why is the world, it seems to be collapsing, imploding in on itself? And there seems to be no reason. There was no kind of warning that this would happen. And yet 2020 and kind of going into 2021 seemed like things are just chaotic, crazy. And there's a good reason for that. And I'm going to very quickly explain in this video. I know you're probably watching this on your phone or you don't have much time. So let's just get right into it, okay? The first thing to realize is that humanity, the economy, life, many things really, they work in kind of cycles. So things often repeat themselves throughout history, in the economy, in investments, in anything really. Things repeat themselves in cycles. And so what's happening now is kind of the end of one of these cycles. Things are kind of being reset and put back to not at the beginning, but they're kind of being turned on their head, right? The old systems that have been allowed to work so far, the control systems, the manipulation methods that have been used on us so far are not working anymore. And so they're collapsing. But of course, on the surface level, that looks like everything's going to hell. It looks like everything is just collapsing, burning down. But that's just really the surface level. Okay, underneath that you have what's actually happening, which is humanity on a mass scale is waking up and raising their vibrations and realizing that this life is not all there is. We're basically immortal beings trapped inside a human body for a brief period of time. And the concept of time is not real either, right? This is just an idea. So people are realizing this, and that's why these systems are falling down. And it seems like everything is chaotic because while a large percentage of people are realizing that we're immortal, eternal beings trapped inside a human body for a brief period of time, a lot of people are realizing that at the same time, a lot of people, probably an equal amount or even maybe slightly more people, are not at that stage yet. And so when they see all these systems crumbling and collapsing around them, they freak out. And that manifests in them, being fearful, trying to make others fearful, panicking, moaning, complaining, and in some cases even being aggressive or, verbally abusive to people who don't go along with the narrative, which is kind of also collapsing and crumbling apart because it can't hold itself together in the face of awareness and the truth. So this is why that's happening. And so you have this kind of divide, which is kind of probably a bad word for it because it's not really a divide, it's just a difference in perspective. And our perspectives basically control everything. If it can be made to believe a certain narrative, then we will fit everything else into that belief system. It's a form of brainwashing and control, and it's been used on a mass scale for a long time. But this is also not working anymore, at least not for the whole population, only for certain people. And as a side note, you'll find that you're much more easily manipulated if you actually listen to and believe the mainstream media. But that's another story entirely. So you have this kind of divide, this polarity between the people who are seeing the truth and the people who are going along with the narrative. That's all I'm going to say on that, so I don't get censored or something like that. So that's why things seem so chaotic, because you have on one side people who really believe everything they're being told without realizing that the only way they're able to control you is by you believing what they say and by being fearful of it, which is why there's a huge focus on getting you to be scared. But there's really nothing to be scared of. And that's kind of what people are realizing. And so on this side, you have people who are just completely fearless and see through everything that's going on, and they don't really mind that things are crumbling down because they know that will make way for something better, which we need desperately. We need a new system and we need new ways of doing everything. The old one didn't work and isn't working, and that's kind of why it's collapsed. And it's not just something that's happening now. This is not new. This has always happened. There has always been a battle between truth and freedom and oppression and tyranny. This is one of these cycles I mentioned earlier. In history, you see this countless times throughout history. All around the world, ancient civilizations, all the way up till now, there's always been this battle between people who want truth and freedom and people who want to oppress and control and manipulate them and dictate to them. Now, usually in history, what happens is dictators, basically, they're just men or women, right? They can die. But what happens is they've been able to pass their plan, I guess you could say, down through many generations to ensure that they keep advancing it forward. But people are also realizing that, and there's a huge amount of, it's a bit of a rabbit hole really, but you can connect the dots between all kinds of different people and see that actually they're not separated by country borders, they're not separated by anything really, they're basically united at the top, and that's how they've been able to control and manipulate so many people. But that also is falling down. So you have all of these different things that are collapsing and changing at the same time. Combine that with the fact that, like I said on this side, the people who actually believe the narrative are helping it to advance and making things worse. So you have economic problems, you have people in fear, and then you also have a huge chunk of people who are not fearful at all and who are just kind of sitting there watching things happen, and they're not worried. Okay? Which is how we should be. We should not be worried or fearful about any of this, because it's just making way for a new system that will be better. And there have been many names for this, the end of this cycle. People have called it the Age of Aquarius, the Golden Age, moving into 5D. All of these different terms you've probably heard in the spiritual community, and it's basically all describing the same thing. The end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one. During that transition, however, there will, on the surface level, be a lot of chaos. And if you don't know what's going on, and if you haven't really looked into it much, on the surface level, it looks like the whole world is falling apart. But it's really not. It's actually just the old things kind of collapsing at the same time as the new things being built, which looks like chaos to people who don't know what's going on. So there's nothing to worry about, okay? Just try and be one of these people here instead of one of the fearful people who freak out and react and don't really know what's going on.